Okay, my couture crafters, let's get into this card. I really think these Heroscapes are just lovely. I've had them for a while now and I've been itching to get into them. I'm using my Altenew inks with this one. I don't know why. I just did. No rhyme or reason why I didn't grab my Catherine Poolers for this. I just grabbed Altenews. And I grabbed a couple of greens and a pretty sunflower color and then two browns. Don't be hung up on exactly what colors I used. I mean, if you really want to know, I will tell you. But just get you some colors that you think you might want to play with. And just because they're sunflowers does not mean that they have to be in yellow. I could have made these any color. And this stamp set is so forgiving. So I pulled out my Misty and I just put the cardstock down. I cut it down to 4.5 by 8.5 and just push the stamp all the way to the left. It just lines up so easily. It's very, very forgiving. And as you can see, I'm getting blotchy stamped images here because I didn't prep the stamp. I just used it straight off the plastic. I didn't do anything with it. And now I'm using my new Picket Fence stamp scrubber to clean it. Always looking for a good cleaner for my stamps, and it does, but I feel like you need to go behind it with a paper towel to dry it. So now I take the next layer and I just push it all the way to the edge, and you can see that the ink is starting to kind of spread out a little bit, even though it beat it up quite a bit on the actual stamp. Again, I didn't prep these stamps. I didn't do anything. I took them right off the plastic and put them right on there. And look at how pretty that is. It's coming up really nice. Again, the stamp set is very, very, very forgiving. I tried to put a little bit more ink at the bottom than the top to kind of give it a gradient. I don't know that it worked. I don't know that that was necessary. I tried it, but it looked good to me. So here is that pretty I think that color is called chamomile. And I think it works so good for these sunflowers. With that stamp cleaner that I'm using, that little green thing, you're supposed to wet it and then it will expand and then you use it. I was just spraying my stamps with water and then scrubbing it. And so I noticed that the center started to expand a bit. And here we are doing I think this is the second to the last layer, which is like a paper bag color, which I think that is actually the name of the color that I used. And then the last color that I used was espresso. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? It's a little field. Now this stamp set, I believe, is 4.25. And I cut this paper down to 4.5. I had plans for it to be cut down anyway. So I wasn't overly concerned with the fact that it is not all the way to the edge or all the way to the bottom. No worries for me. You know my style card, so you guys already know where I'm going with that. But again, this stamp set's super. I just can't tell you guys how easy it is to line up. I'd feel comfortable lining up that stamp set just using a block without the Misty. So now I wanted to do some ink blending for the background. And I wanted to do different colors, like purples and all that. But I didn't want to mask off the bottom. And I knew I was concerned about touching the edge there, but I didn't want to mask it off. And I mean, I was having all kinds of issues about what colors to pull. And I was like, just do a blue sky. Just stop. Always trying to do too much. I'm using oxides and I'm using these brushes by Tailored Expressions. I actually do not love this yet. I know people are all about the brushes and it lays down color faster. It does. It is faster, but it's not smooth. And I don't know if that's just the way that oxides are, because I can get a smooth blend with an old school blender foam and some ink. But it does take a lot longer, and I would never want to do a card this size with that method because it just takes a long time and your arm is tired. So here it happens faster. In person, this looks a lot more smooth than it does on camera, but it kind of gives you a cloud feel in person, but I don't know, guys. I need to work on my ink blending with oxides, I guess, or not. Just be okay with it. I don't know. It was fast, but I'm just not completely sold on that just yet. So here I'm using my VersaFine Clear and one of the images that comes with the Heroscapes. I bought all 3 Heroscapes with the matching dies. And my idea was to have a rainbow balloon. So I pulled out my Zig Clean Color markers and my Artezas and a water brush and just colored them in a bunch of different rainbow ways. And I did that off camera because nobody wants to watch me color, especially watercolor. That is not my gift. Now I'm checking the size of the card. I love that I have those templates. Those templates come in handy so often with when I'm trying to figure out what size card I want. If you guys want to see my templates and how I made them and what sizes I kind of go to, there's a video for that. So I cut this at 8 by 8.5, and I scored at 4. And I folded the card in half to make a card base nice and white. I did not fold it exactly right, so there's a little hangover, but I didn't care. It was like 1/8. I could see it. Actually, it was more like 1/16. I could see it, but whatever. When I cut this, I had to use that piece. I was like, all that ink on there, I don't know. You guys know I will throw away some scraps, but for whatever reason, I was like, I am not throwing that piece away that I just cut off. So you'll see that come back for the envelope. I don't know that that was my best idea ever, but it's what happened. So I trimmed it down. I think if that piece is 4, I trimmed it down to 3.5. That piece right there, I was like, I'm using you. I'm totally using you. So I trimmed down the final piece to 3.5 by 8. Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more, but you can see there. So here I was thinking about micro glazing so that I could stamp over the background without it picking up, without it changing, because you know this stuff is water reactive. And I decided against it because it's an oxide and I wasn't sure if that micro glaze was going to leave a glossy finish on top of my card, and I didn't want that. So I just was like, whatever, let's just see what happens. Worst case scenario, I'll have a purple barn because red and blue makes purple. And for the most part, the barn stayed red because that tumbled glass that I used was so light. Again, I used tumbled glass, salty ocean, and chipped sapphire. I think it was chipped sapphire. And so it looks red. I stamped right on it. I didn't seal it. I didn't do anything, but I was contemplating doing it. But I was like, just do it. Let's see. You guys know I'm psycho about stamping on the back of things. So I put down that little piece of paper so it didn't ruin my mouse pad and my Misty, because I'm that person. You will rarely see me just stamp and then whatever happens in the back happens. I can't. I like a clean area. I like my tools to be clean. Most of the time my stuff is clean, if you notice. So that's just me. Maybe it comes off that, maybe it doesn't. I see people like Christina Warner just stamp on their stuff and they don't even worry about it. I am not that person. I like to have clean tools. If somebody were to get my tools and hear at my tools after me, they would be getting nice, clean stuff. Almost brand newish, sort of. I decided that I wanted to use the windmill. Man, these scenes are right up my alley. I don't know. I like things that are geometric and I like things that are rainbow colored, and I like flowers and scenes. I mean, not scenes, but this kind of stuff like landscapes. I don't know why. I just do. So I used my Gemini to cut out all the good ones, the ones that I liked, my little hot air balloons. And I placed them down. And I'm also using a white Hero Arts dauber to create some clouds in the background. I used the rounded one because I knew that it wouldn't have sharp edges. So I felt better about that. Instead of using just the regular foam, I was kind of thinking about it for a moment. And then I just kind of dabbed it on there and swirled it around and decided that those were clouds. And then I felt good about it. And I was like, it looks like a cloud to me. And now I am placing my little hot air balloons in the air. And I'm grabbing a sentiment from that same Sunflower Heroscapes set. I can't remember if that hot air balloon comes in this particular set. I think it comes in a different one. I kind of mixed and matched the stamps to suit my needs since I had all of the sets. And so I just decided I had done all that work. We will not try to mess it up and go freehand. You have a Misty, use it. And so I stamped the sentiment using my Misty. I really like this little cleaner thus far. You know, you still got to go back and wipe up the water, but it seems to be getting in all the nooks and crannies and really scrubbing those stamps clean. So I used some tape runner and I just positioned it best I could. Cool. Now, you know those paper stacks that you get from Michael's right now that have replaced the other 12 by 12? I don't love these because the core is white. A white core is not cute. I don't like it. But you talk about a pretty piece of colored green cardstock. This is gorgeous. Isn't it pretty? I'm a fan. So, and it's got a texture to it. It's not smooth. I used to like Michael's old stock better because it was better for Cricut paper piecing, in my opinion. But whatever. Anyway, I've always wanted to make one of these envelopes fold and open on the side. You guys have seen me attempt to do this before, and I had to look at one, and then I got a reference about how to do this without it looking super crazy. I've actually got one more idea for how I would like to do another one, so I'll try that soon. But basically, I just cut down one side, and then I'm cutting straight up the middle so that the bottom and the side line up. And now, doesn't this look way better? Yes, it looks like it actually opens from the top. It's just cleaner than having those folds there. So I put a little bit of adhesive down with my tape runner or my glider. I don't know what made me want to curve that corner. I guess just to make it distinctively different than the other side. Put down a little bit of tape. Made sure that it wasn't sticking down, and bam, now we have an envelope that opens at the top. What? That makes me very happy. Now this piece was a little bit short. Annoyed. I was like, well, now what do I do? How do I fix that? I am trimming this off. Whenever I want to take like a 16th or a hair off, I use a guillotine trimmer. It's clean. It just slices. So I'm like, shoot, it's short. What am I going to do? Well, I thought about it, and you'll see in just a second. I decided to take that hot air balloon and place it at the top so that it just kind of continues down the side. Boy, I like this. It's kind of abrupt, but I'm thinking that I'm going to use my calligraphy stamps to stamp the people's names whose home this is going to. This is actually a card for one of the quilts that I've made. It's going to a family member, and I like to do coordinating cards. So I call their quilt the Big Country Quilt, and this is certainly like a country scenic stamp set to me. So they're going to get a card and a quilt. And hopefully, if I do it right, it'll be going this weekend. I'm not me if I am not sealing something. So I'm showing you how I seal this. I only used 3 beads and a random small seal this time, not one of my elegant Disney ones or anything like that, because they probably wouldn't get it. So just a nice heart worked fine for this. And that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Talk with you guys later.